Hi, my name's Rehan, and I'm 10 years old, and I'm in the 6th grade. And I'm gonna let you in on a little bit of a secret. I'm in love with this girl in my class. Her name's Sarah. And she just moved to our town and transferred into my school just a couple months ago. And I remember the second that she came into my class, she had a dirty blonde hair to about here, face full of freckles, braces, big blue eyes, and this pink bow in her hair. And I knew instantly that I was in love. And today's a really important day for me because today's Valentine's Day. And today's the day that I get to tell the girl that I love how I feel. So just to pause for a second, my middle school had this completely effed up program on Valentine's Day where they would encourage middle schoolers to express their love to other middle schoolers by sending them roses that would get delivered in class in the middle of the day, totally unexpectedly, which is, for the record, a phenomenally terrible idea. I write, "Dear Sarah, happy Valentine's Day. I really, really, really like you." And I sign Love Rehan. And then I erase the love and I write from Rehan because saying love's it's a little much. So I go through a couple hours and a couple classes and the bell rings and I go running down the hallway back to my locker to swap out books for my next class. Head buried in the locker. Right behind me I hear some chatter and some laughter. And I'm ignoring it because I got a lot going on today. Today's a big day for me. The voice behind me goes, "Hey, dipshit." And I turn around, it's Brian, and Brian's standing in front of a group of his gaggle of friends. So I look back and I go, "Hey, Brian." He goes, "Hey, man, I was just in class, and Sarah got the roses you sent her." Blood rushes to my face and my heart starts pounding, and I'm like, "What happened? What did she say?" And he goes, "Honestly, man, she was super embarrassed. Everyone in the class laughed at her. You're really lucky. She's really lucky, because right after my roses showed up, I sent her a dozen of them." And he left me a parting line. He said, "Who the hell do you think you are to think you could be with a girl like Sarah?" He walks away, the kids walk away, and the next couple hours of my day are hell. The last bell of the day rings, and I go running out the door just as fast as I ran in. I jump into the back of my mom's car, and we drive home, and I cry the entire ride home. And when I get home, my parents talk me off the ledge and tell me tomorrow is going to be another day. So going into school the next day, I was ready to start anew. But the bullying kept continuing, and it kept escalating. The bullying continued for 3 more years, and it escalated in some really awful ways. And it's crazy how a handful of kids, a handful of years can make such a dramatic impact on someone's life. So much so that just 2 days ago when I'm flying across the country to speak at a conference, I'm riddled with anxiety. And I'm not anxious about the flight or having my suitcase show up or remembering my lines for the speech. I'm scared that somebody in the crowd's laughing at me. I'm scared that everyone in the crowd's questioning my existence and questioning why I believe I belong. And it's crazy that only 1 or 2 things in everybody's life is what's holding us back from living the best versions of our lives. For the longest time, I thought I was alone. I thought I was alone in my craziness, being saddled with something that happened when I was a kid. And then in 2012, I was reading an article, and I'm scrolling through this article on my phone, and it's talking about how the suicide rates for kids in their late teens and early 20s are rising faster than any other living generation. And the reason is because this entire group of people are dealing with issues that they're not old enough to really be ready to deal with, if you ever are. But 2, they don't feel like they have the resources available to them to get help where they are. So right after I read the article, I went to a music festival. And in a sea of 90,000 people, and I've been going to music festivals my entire life, in a sea of 90,000 people, all of a sudden I wasn't seeing 90,000 people celebrating life. I saw 1 in 14 who were going to attempt suicide. And as I looked around, I noticed something. I noticed that there were no support services whatsoever. If you needed help, if you needed somebody to talk to, it didn't exist at that moment in that place at that time. So when I left that festival, I went home and I came up with an idea. The idea was, could we create an entertainment program that we could stick into existing modern music festivals that came to people where they are and gave them the support that they need in the form of speakers and coaches and nonprofit organizations and counselors. And I went to every entertainment producer I could meet. And I got a resounding no from the industry. And the logic was this, and it was best summed up by the last person I spoke to. The last person I spoke to said, Rehan, look, we're trying to create parties that are fun. And talking about mental illness, depression, suicide, it's kind of a downer. We don't really want to talk about it. Undeterred, I left that day, and I decided to found my own music festival. So in 2013, I founded a festival called Life is Beautiful. And in 2018, I founded a second festival called Emerge. And the entire premise for these events were to build programs with talent lineups that included rich stories that helped people understand the emotions that they were going through, and then gave them access to the resources they needed to get help where they were in entertainment environments. What was interesting, the thing that we learned is the importance for businesses who focus on solving a certain set of issues for their customer base, the importance of them knowing their audience deeply enough to know what all of the issues are and to know what they're really saddled with. Before I went into the entertainment space and started producing festivals, I was in hospitality. I worked for Caesars Entertainment and designed the entertainment program for the Cosmopolitan in Las Vegas. And in hospitality, I saw some of the greatest, most incredible moments of humanity. I saw people celebrating. I saw people loving each other. I saw growth. But I also saw a lot of darkness. And that's not surprising, because when you're taking 90,000 people and putting them through a festival or a hotel, you're going to see both ends of the spectrum. But what's interesting to me is, why aren't we going to people where they are to provide them the support they need? I imagine a hospitality environment where when you check into your hotel room and you walk in on your phone next to the bell desk and the room service button, there's a button that'll direct dial you to a mental health professional to talk to you where you are. I picture a community board, a digital board, where if you're flying across the country to give a speech on stage, you can type in and say, hey, will somebody help me rehearse? Will somebody just meet me so I can practice this thing because I need it? Or I need a good creative conversation to help me before a big presentation. I picture treating addiction the same way we treat peanut allergies, where it's not only shutting down the source of trouble, but also creating an experience that allows them to enjoy every aspect of their getaway through the lens of their addiction. I picture a secret code that every woman that checks into a hotel gets, and they can whisper that code or order that secret drink from any person in the building, and if they do, that's the signal that they need help. And security or the police or somebody needs to get involved. I know better than anyone, I produce festivals for a living, that we're trying to just show people a good time. But if we know that the barrier to people's best life can be chipped away at little by little where they are, where we're hosting them, imagine how much better their experience is going to be. Imagine how much more uplifted they're going to feel. Imagine how much more they're going to want to help everybody else. And imagine how great of a party that would be. Thank you. Thanks.